A massive black wolf lay trapped beneath iron jaws deep inside a frozen forest. Blood soaked the snow. His breathing was fading. Every hunter who passed him made the same choice. They turned away, because everyone knew one terrifying truth. No ordinary wolf could survive a trap like that. Only a monster could. Then a young healer stepped out of the falling snow. She carried no weapon, no army, no magic strong enough to protect her. Only a small knife and a heart that refused to leave a dying creature behind. The wolf opened his silver eyes. For one terrifying second the entire forest fell silent. He could have ripped her apart with a single bite. Instead he simply watched her, as if he was begging for help. She knelt beside him with shaking hands. Every chain she touched sliced into her skin. The trap snapped open. The wolf collapsed into her arms. She smiled through the pain, believing she had just saved a wounded rogue who had been abandoned by his own pack. She had no idea the creature she carried home was the most feared alpha king alive. Nor did she know that before the next full moon he would reject her before an entire kingdom. She would disappear carrying a secret no one could imagine. A child destined to inherit the throne. A kingdom would drown in betrayal. A ruthless usurper would hunt them to the ends of the earth. And years later the same alpha king who broke her heart would kneel before her with tears in his eyes and beg for one thing he could never reclaim: forgiveness. But by then one heartbreaking truth would change everything. The little boy standing beside her had already decided that the king who abandoned his mother would never become his father. So how did one act of kindness in a frozen forest become the greatest mistake and the deepest regret of the most powerful alpha king in history? The scream that echoed through the frozen forest did not sound like an animal. It sounded like a king being dragged toward his end. Snow exploded beneath a gigantic silver-black wolf as he struggled against a brutal iron trap buried beneath fresh white powder. The cruel jaws of the trap had crushed his front leg until blood poured into the snow like crimson rivers. Every desperate pull only drove the jagged metal deeper into his flesh. His breath came in ragged clouds that vanished into the bitter wind, while pain burned through every part of his powerful body. Far above the clearing, a group of hunters stood watching from the ridge. Their laughter rolled through the trees without mercy. One of them lifted his spear and pointed toward the trapped wolf with a grin full of hatred. "Let the monster bleed to death," he shouted. "That beast has slaughtered enough wolves already." No one noticed the young woman hiding among the pine trees. Elena Ashwood stood completely still with a bundle of healing herbs pressed tightly against her chest. The freezing wind pulled strands of her long chestnut hair across her face, but she did not move. Her emerald eyes stayed fixed on the enormous creature lying in the snow. Every story she had ever heard warned her about rogue wolves. They were said to be savage beasts that killed without reason and destroyed entire villages. Children were taught to run the moment they caught sight of glowing wolf eyes in the darkness. Yet nothing before her matched those stories. The giant wolf did not growl with hatred. He looked at her with pain. There was something inside those silver eyes that no monster should possess. There was fear. There was exhaustion. There was a silent plea for someone to help before it was too late. Elena felt her heartbeat hammer inside her chest. She knew exactly what would happen if anyone discovered she had helped a rogue wolf. The punishment was death. Not even a trial would save her. The royal laws were absolute. Anyone who protected a rogue was considered an enemy of every pack. She should have walked away. She tried to force her feet to move. They refused. Instead, she stepped out from behind the trees. Each step sank deep into the untouched snow while the hunters argued among themselves farther up the ridge. They believed the wolf was already dying. None of them expected anyone to approach. The wolf lifted his head the moment she came closer. His muscles tensed. His ears flattened. For one long, terrifying moment, Elena thought he would attack. She slowly knelt several feet away and lowered her eyes. "I am not here to hurt you," she whispered. The wind carried her voice through the silent forest. The wolf stared at her without moving. Blood continued flowing from his shattered leg. Elena swallowed her fear and reached into the leather pouch hanging from her waist. She removed a small knife along with strips of cloth she had prepared for gathering herbs. The trap was old. Rust covered every hinge. Its locking pin had frozen solid beneath layers of ice. She wrapped both hands around the heavy iron jaw and pushed with every ounce of strength she possessed. Nothing happened. The wolf released another painful growl. His breathing became weaker. Elena clenched her teeth. "Not today," she whispered. "You are not dying today." She wedged the knife beneath the locking pin and forced it upward until the blade bent under the pressure. Her fingers slipped across frozen metal. Sharp edges sliced open her palms. Warm blood dripped onto the trap beside the wolf. Something unexpected happened. The wolf stopped struggling. He watched her bleeding hands with quiet eyes. Almost as though he understood, she was risking everything for him. With one final desperate push, the rusted pin snapped free. The trap burst open. The giant wolf collapsed into the snow instead of running away. His crushed leg trembled violently beneath him. Elena quickly wrapped the wound with clean cloth before spreading crushed herbs over the torn flesh. Her fingers moved gently despite the freezing air that had turned them numb. The wolf never once tried to bite her. Instead, he lowered his massive head until it rested against her shoulder. Elena froze. She could feel the warmth of his breath through her thick winter cloak. The enormous creature closed his eyes. For just a single moment, he looked less like a predator and more like someone who had finally found safety after endless suffering. A loud horn shattered the silence. The hunters, they had finally noticed. "There she is," someone shouted. "She is helping the rogue. Catch them both." Elena's heart nearly stopped. Boots pounded across the snow. Torches flickered between the trees. She looked at the wounded wolf and then toward the approaching hunters. If they found him alive, they would finish what the trap had started. Without thinking, she slipped beneath his enormous body and pulled with all her strength. "Come on," she whispered. "Please, stand." The wolf tried. His injured leg collapsed beneath him. He was simply too weak. The shouting grew louder. Arrows began striking tree trunks around them. One buried itself inches from Elena's feet. She grabbed a thick rope from her herb basket and tied it around the wolf's chest before dragging him across the snow one painful step at a time. Every movement felt impossible. He was far heavier than she could ever carry. Still, she refused to leave him. The forest itself seemed to come alive around them. Thick fog drifted between ancient pine trees, while snow continued falling harder with every passing minute. Visibility faded until even the hunters struggled to see ahead. It was as though the mountain wanted to hide them. After what felt like an eternity, Elena finally saw the faint outline of her tiny wooden cabin standing alone beside a frozen stream. She pushed open the door. The wolf collapsed onto the wooden floor beside the fireplace. His breathing was shallow now. His silver eyes slowly closed. Elena immediately fed fresh logs into the fire before heating water and preparing stronger medicine from the rare herbs she had gathered earlier that morning. Hours passed. Darkness swallowed the forest outside. The storm grew fierce enough to shake the cabin walls. Elena barely noticed. She remained beside the wounded wolf, cleaning every wound and replacing every blood-soaked bandage. At some point, exhaustion overtook her. Her head rested against the edge of the bed while her eyes slowly closed. The fire crackled softly. The storm howled beyond the windows. Then, sometime before dawn, a deep, painful groan echoed through the cabin. Elena's eyes flew open. The giant wolf was gone. In his place lay an unconscious man covered only by torn pieces of fur and blood-stained skin. His broad shoulders were scarred from countless battles. His long black hair spilled across the floor. A royal wolf crest burned faintly over his chest before disappearing beneath his skin. Elena stared without breathing. She had not rescued an ordinary rogue. She had brought home someone whose very existence could change the fate of every kingdom. And outside her cabin, hidden among the snow-covered trees, dozens of silent warriors had already surrounded the clearing, waiting for the man inside to wake. Morning arrived quietly, but the cabin did not feel peaceful. Pale sunlight slipped through the frost-covered window and rested across the face of the unconscious stranger lying beside the fire. Elena stood frozen, several steps away, with a wooden bowl still clutched in her hands. She had spent the entire night caring for a giant wounded wolf. Now a tall man rested beneath her wool blanket, as though he had always belonged there. His chest rose and fell with slow, heavy breaths. Fresh scars crossed his powerful body from shoulder to waist. Some were old battle wounds. Others were fresh cuts that looked as though they had been carved by silver blades. Elena slowly placed the bowl on the table. Her heart refused to calm. She had heard whispers from wandering merchants about werewolves who could shift into human form. They were legends spoken beside campfires to frighten children. She had never believed those stories until this moment. She stepped closer. His face looked peaceful now that pain had released its grip. Thick black hair rested across his forehead. A short beard framed a jaw carved like stone. Even unconscious, he carried the quiet strength of someone born to command armies. Then she noticed something strange. His hands. The palms were rough with years of sword training, but the fingers carried no rings. No family crest. No mark of any ordinary warrior. Only a faded scar shaped like a crescent moon crossed the center of his right hand. Elena gently replaced the bandage around his injured leg. The wound should have become worse after such a brutal journey through the snow. Instead, it was already healing. Not completely, but faster than any human body could manage. She whispered to herself, "Who are you?" Before she could wonder further, the stranger suddenly grabbed her wrist. His eyes flew open. Silver. Not gray. Not blue. Pure silver. His grip tightened with the speed of lightning. "Who sent you?" His voice sounded deep and dangerous despite his weakness. Elena gasped but did not pull away. "No one sent me. You were dying. I only helped." He stared into her eyes as though searching for a lie hidden behind every heartbeat. Outside the cabin, the wind howled across the valley. Inside, neither of them moved. Finally, his fingers loosened. He released her wrist. "I owe you my life," he said quietly. His voice no longer carried suspicion, only exhaustion. Elena poured warm water into a cup and handed it to him. "Drink slowly. You lost too much blood." He accepted the cup without another word. For several minutes, silence filled the room. The fire cracked softly. Snow drifted against the windows. The stranger studied every corner of the cabin with careful eyes. Simple wooden furniture, bundles of herbs hanging from the ceiling, a single bookshelf, pressed flowers drying beside the fireplace. Nothing about the place belonged to a criminal. Nothing suggested a trap. "You live here alone?" he finally asked. Elena nodded. "Always. No family." She smiled sadly. "Not anymore." Something softened inside his expression. Only for a heartbeat. Then the walls around his heart returned. "What is your name?" she asked. He looked toward the fire before answering. "Kai." The name came too quickly. Too easily. Elena sensed it was not the truth. Still, she did not challenge him. Names could wait. Saving his life had not earned his trust. Not yet. She prepared fresh stew while he rested beside the fire. Every few moments she caught him watching her. Not with fear. With confusion. He had expected greed, questions, perhaps even betrayal. Instead, this quiet healer simply treated him like another injured traveler. He could not understand it. When she finally placed the steaming bowl into his hands, he hesitated. "You should eat first," he said. She smiled. "There is enough for both of us." He lowered his eyes. No one had spoken to him with such simple kindness in years. After breakfast, Elena stepped outside to collect water from the frozen stream. The moment the cabin door closed, Kale slowly stood despite the pain burning through his leg. Kai! That false name tasted bitter inside his mouth. He hated lying, especially to the woman who had saved him. But telling the truth would place her in greater danger than she could imagine. He crossed to the narrow window. Fresh footprints circled the cabin. Too many. His heartbeat slowed. Someone had found them. He quietly lifted the hunting knife, resting on the table. The scent reached him first. Not soldiers. Wolves. Royal wolves. His own guards. Relief should have followed. Instead, dread settled deep inside him. If they found him here, they would question Elena. If Lucian's spies followed them, she would become a target before sunset. A gentle knock interrupted his thoughts. 3 slow taps. Then silence. Kale moved without making a sound. He opened the door only enough to see outside. An old gray wolf stood beneath the pine trees. One glance was enough. General Orion, his oldest commander. The wolf lowered his head respectfully before shifting into the form of an elderly warrior dressed in dark traveling clothes. "My king," he whispered. "Thank the moon you live." Kale immediately raised one hand. "Quiet! Do not speak that title again." Orion looked confused. "Your people believe you dead. The kingdom falls apart every day. Princess Celine still searches for you. Lucian has almost claimed the throne." Kale listened without changing expression. He had expected nothing less. Where are the others? Waiting beyond the forest. No one knows you are here. Kale looked back toward the cabin, where Elena's gentle footsteps approached from the frozen stream. Leave immediately, he ordered. Tell no one where I am, not even Celine. Orion frowned. My king. That was not a request. The old warrior lowered his head. As you command. Within seconds, he disappeared among the trees. Elena returned carrying 2 wooden buckets filled with water. She noticed nothing unusual except the strange tension inside the cabin. Is everything all right, she asked. Kai forced a calm smile. Just old memories. She accepted the answer, though she sensed another hidden truth. Days passed. The storm trapped them inside the valley. Kale slowly regained his strength. He repaired broken shelves, split firewood despite Elena protesting, fetched water before sunrise. Each small act surprised her. This silent warrior carried himself with quiet discipline. He never complained, never demanded, never wasted words. Sometimes she caught him staring toward the mountains with sadness, so deep it seemed older than time itself. One evening, while preparing herbs, Elena accidentally cut her finger. A tiny drop of blood touched the wooden table. Kale froze. His wolf stirred violently inside him. A strange warmth spread through his chest. His instincts screamed one impossible truth. Mate. He closed his eyes immediately. No. Impossible. Not now. Not after everything. Elena looked up. Are you all right? He forced himself to breathe. Yes. Only tired. But deep inside he already knew. The moon goddess had chosen Elena. Not because she belonged to a royal bloodline. Not because she carried power. Because her heart remained pure when everyone else had chosen fear. Kale looked away before his emotions betrayed him. If Lucian learned the Alpha King had found his fated mate, she would become the greatest target in the kingdom. He would rather lose his throne forever than allow that to happen. That night Elena stepped outside beneath a sky filled with stars. The cold air felt strangely peaceful. As she filled a basket with firewood, an unfamiliar warmth suddenly spread across her left wrist. She frowned. Slowly she pushed back her sleeve. A faint silver mark shaped like a crescent moon had appeared beneath her skin. It shimmered once beneath the moonlight before becoming still. She had never seen it before. Behind the cabin, Kale watched through the window. His face lost all color. The mate bond had awakened. And somewhere far beyond the snowy mountains another pair of cold, ruthless eyes had sensed the same ancient connection. Lucian Thorne smiled as a royal seer whispered a single sentence into his ear. The Alpha King has found his mate. The silver mark on Elena's wrist refused to disappear. She rubbed her thumb across it again, and again, hoping it was nothing more than a trick of the moonlight. Instead, the crescent became brighter each time her skin touched it. A strange warmth spread through her arm and settled deep inside her heart. It was not painful. It was comforting, familiar, as if someone invisible had wrapped a gentle hand around her soul. She stepped back into the cabin. Kale was standing beside the fireplace with his back turned toward her. His broad shoulders looked tense. The flames painted shifting shadows across the scars covering his back. He had heard her footsteps long before she entered, yet he did not move. Elena finally spoke. Something happened outside. Kale closed his eyes. He already knew. What happened? She slowly lifted her sleeve. This mark appeared. Do you know what it means? For several long seconds the cabin became silent. Only the fire answered with quiet cracks. Kale forced himself to turn around. The moment his silver eyes landed on the glowing crescent, his heart tightened. The moon goddess had chosen. There was no denying it anymore. His wolf wanted to cross the room, to pull Elena into his arms, to tell her she was the one soul fate had written beside his own. Instead, he swallowed every word. Where did you get that scar? He asked quietly. It is not a scar. It was not there before tonight. She watched his face carefully. You know something. Please tell me. Kale looked away. Not yet. It is safer if you do not know. Those words hurt more than Elena expected. After everything they had survived together, he still did not trust her. She lowered her sleeve without another question. Very well. I will not ask again. She walked toward the window and stared into the endless white forest beyond the glass. Kale wanted to stop her, to explain everything. But every truth carried danger. Every secret he revealed would place a target upon her back. He chose silence. It was the hardest choice he had ever made. The next morning the storm finally ended. Sunlight spilled across the valley for the first time in days. Elena gathered her empty baskets. I need fresh herbs. The fever medicine is almost gone. Kale immediately stood. I will come with you. She smiled softly. Your leg is still healing. I can manage. He shook his head. The forest is changing. There are too many tracks outside. She frowned. Tracks. Hunters. The word escaped before he could stop it. Elena noticed the mistake. You knew before looking outside. How? Kale answered without hesitation. Years of surviving alone. You learned to notice danger. She accepted the explanation, even though doubt quietly settled inside her heart. Together they walked into the forest. Snow sparkled beneath the morning sun while frozen branches bent beneath their weight. Birds slowly returned after the storm. Everything looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Kale's senses never rested. Every gust of wind carried unfamiliar scents. Someone had crossed the valley. More than one person. He quietly guided Elena away from the open trails. Stay close. Why? Because something feels wrong. They continued deeper into the woods until Elena reached a patch of rare silver leaf plants growing beneath an ancient cedar tree. She knelt beside them with a smile. I searched weeks for these. They only bloom after heavy snow. As she carefully picked each leaf, Kale scanned the surrounding forest. Then he heard it, a branch snapping. Far to the east. Another behind them. Then another. They were surrounded. Get behind me. His voice became cold. Sharp. Commanding. Elena instantly obeyed without understanding why. Moments later 6 armed warriors stepped from between the trees. Black cloaks. Silver armor. Royal insignias hidden beneath dark fur capes. Their leader smiled without warmth. Well, the rumors were true. The wounded rogue found himself a little healer. Elena's breathing quickened. Who are you? The man ignored her. His eyes remained fixed on Kale. Lucian sends his greetings. Kale's face became expressionless. So the betrayal had reached even this forgotten valley. One warrior pointed his sword toward Elena. Kill the girl first. She has seen too much. Kale moved before the sentence finished. The first soldier crashed into a tree before anyone understood what happened. The second lost his sword as Kale struck his wrist with terrifying precision. The forest exploded into chaos. Steel clashed. Snow flew into the air. Elena stood frozen. This was no ordinary traveler. Every movement carried impossible speed. Every strike was clean. Controlled. Merciless. 3 warriors attacked together. Kale avoided every blade despite his injured leg. One fell unconscious. Another rolled across the snow, clutching broken ribs. The third never reached him. Fear spread through the remaining soldiers. Their captain finally shouted, Enough! Use the silver chains. 2 warriors threw glowing chains through the air. Kale barely escaped the first. The second wrapped around his wounded leg. Pain tore through his body. He dropped to one knee. The silver burned like living fire. Elena grabbed a fallen axe without thinking. Leave him alone. She ran toward the soldier holding the chain. The heavy axe struck the frozen ground inches from his foot. He stumbled backward in surprise. Kale used that single opening. With one violent pull he dragged the soldier forward and knocked him unconscious. The remaining warriors fled into the forest. Cowards never stayed once victory slipped away. Silence slowly returned. Snow drifted gently between the trees once more. Elena dropped the axe. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Who are you? This time her voice carried pain instead of curiosity. No hunter fights like that. No ordinary man survives silver chains. Tell me the truth. Kale looked at her. He could no longer hide everything. Years ago he began quietly. I led warriors across these lands. Many enemies wanted me dead. Lucian was once someone I trusted more than my own brother. He betrayed me. He poisoned me with dark silver during a royal gathering. When I could no longer defend myself, they declared me dead before the kingdom. The council accepted his lies. Only a handful escaped alive. Elena listened without interrupting. She could hear the sorrow behind every word. You were not running from hunters. You were running from your own people. Kale nodded slowly. The ones sworn to protect me became the ones who hunted me. Elena's heart ached for him. For the first time she understood the loneliness hidden behind his silence. Before she could speak again, a sharp whistle echoed across the valley. Kale's eyes narrowed. Not soldiers. Archers. Run. He grabbed Elena's hand. Together they raced through the forest. Arrows rained from the cliffs above. One buried itself into a tree beside Elena's face. Another struck the ground between them. Neither looked back. Neither noticed the hooded figure watching from a distant ridge. Princess Celine lowered the spyglass from her eyes. Tears filled them. Her brother was alive, but the young woman running beside him carried something far more dangerous than any crown. A faint silver crescent glowing beneath her sleeve. Celine whispered into the cold wind. The moon goddess has chosen the true Luna. Then her expression suddenly changed as another rider appeared behind her carrying Lucian's black banner. She realized with horror that she had not been the only one watching. And before sunset the entire kingdom would know exactly where Elena lived. The race through the forest did not end when the arrows stopped falling. It ended only when both Elena and Cale reached the edge of a frozen cliff where the ancient pines grew so thick that even sunlight struggled to enter. Their breathing came in heavy clouds as they leaned against separate trees. Neither spoke. The silence between them felt heavier than the snow covering the earth. Cale looked back toward the valley. The hunters had vanished. That worried him more than if they had continued chasing. Lucian never attacked without purpose. If his soldiers had withdrawn so easily, then another trap was already waiting. Elena watched him carefully. The calm stranger she had rescued no longer existed. Every movement he made carried authority. Every decision came without hesitation. Every instinct was that of a leader born to command. Finally, she broke the silence. You still are not telling me everything. Cale closed his eyes. There are truths that destroy lives the moment they are spoken. She stepped closer, and there are lies that destroy them even faster. Those words struck deeper than any blade. Before Cale could answer, another voice echoed through the trees. Brother. Both turned instantly. A woman dressed in a dark traveling cloak slowly emerged from the forest. Snow rested upon her silver hair while tired eyes searched Cale's face with disbelief. The moment she reached him, tears slipped down her cheeks. She fell to one knee. My king. Cale quickly lifted her before anyone else could see. Do not call me that here. Princess Celine smiled through her tears. I searched every mountain, every village, every battlefield. They told me you were dead. She placed one trembling hand against his face. I refused to believe them. For the first time since Elena had met him, Cale embraced someone without hesitation. It lasted only a few seconds, but Elena saw everything. Brother, king, princess, the truth finally stood before her. She had not rescued a wandering warrior. She had rescued the Alpha King himself. Her heartbeat slowed. Every unanswered question suddenly found its answer. The scars, the soldiers, the betrayal, the way everyone hunted him. Everything became painfully clear. She quietly stepped backward. Cale noticed immediately. Elena. She forced a small smile. You should have trusted me. He took one step toward her. I wanted to. Then why did you lie every single day? He could not answer, because every answer sounded weak beside the truth. Celine looked between them and instantly understood what had happened. Then her eyes fell upon the faint silver crescent hidden beneath Elena's sleeve. Her expression changed. She had seen that mark only once before in the oldest royal records. The true Luna, the woman destined to stand beside the Alpha King. Fear settled inside her heart. Lucian could never learn this. Before anyone could speak again, another sound rolled across the valley. War horns. Not one. Dozens. The mountains echoed with them. Cale's face hardened. They found us. Within moments, hundreds of armored wolves poured from every direction. The forest disappeared beneath black armor and raised spears. Lucian had not sent hunters. He had sent an army. There was no escape. Cale slowly stepped in front of Elena. Stay behind me. She grabbed his arm. You cannot fight all of them. No, but I can keep them away from you. The soldiers formed a wide circle. Then the crowd slowly separated. A tall man wearing black royal armor walked forward with calm confidence. His smile never reached his cold gray eyes. Lucian Thorn, former Beta General, now the man who ruled the kingdom through fear. He stopped only a few steps away. Well done, my king. You survived far longer than expected. Cale's silver eyes burned with quiet fury. Move aside, Lucian. This ends today. Lucian laughed. No. Today it truly begins. His gaze shifted toward Elena. So this is the little healer. the woman foolish enough to rescue a dying wolf. Elena met his eyes without lowering her head. Lucian smiled wider. Bravery. How refreshing. Cale took another step forward. Do not involve her. She has nothing to do with this. Lucian slowly nodded as though considering the request. Then he spoke loudly enough for every soldier to hear. Bring them both to the capital. The chains closed around them before either could resist. Silver shackles weakened Cale until he could barely stand. Elena struggled, but 4 soldiers held her firmly. Neither spoke during the long journey. Hours later, the towering gates of the royal capital appeared through the falling snow. Crowds already filled every street. News traveled faster than horses. The missing Alpha King had returned. The people expected a celebration. Instead, they found chains. Cale and Elena were forced into the great hall where hundreds of nobles waited beneath enormous stone pillars. Every noble whispered. Every warrior stared. Every eye remained fixed upon the Alpha King. Lucian climbed the royal platform. He raised one hand. Silence spread across the hall. People of the Northern Kingdom, today we celebrate the return of our beloved king. The crowd cheered. Then Lucian continued. Unfortunately, our king returns carrying shame. He points toward Elena. This human woman bewitched him. She hid him from his people. She aided a traitor against the crown. Gasps filled the hall. Elena looked around in disbelief. No one knew the truth. No one knew she had only saved an injured stranger. Lucian stepped closer to Cale. Your Majesty, tell your people who she is. Cale remained silent. Lucian lowered his voice. Choose carefully. My archers already surround every village near her cabin. One word from me. Everyone who ever showed her kindness dies before sunset. Cale's hands tightened inside the silver chains. Lucian had planned everything. Every possible escape. Every possible choice. Only one path remained. The one that would destroy his own heart. Lucian smiled. Speak. The entire hall waited. Even Elena. Cale slowly lifted his head. His silver eyes met hers. She searched them for hope, for trust, for anything. Instead, she heard the words that shattered her world. This woman means nothing to me. The hall fell silent. Cale forced himself to continue. She is not my mate. She is not worthy of standing beside an alpha. She was merely useful while I recovered. Nothing more. Every word cut deeper than the last. Elena could barely breathe. The man whose life she had saved, the man she had trusted with her heart, had just destroyed her before an entire kingdom. Laughter spread among the nobles. Whispers became cruel voices. Some called her a foolish girl. Others mocked her simple clothing. One woman threw a silver coin toward Elena's feet. Payment for your service. More coins followed. Each one struck the marble floor like another insult. Tears gathered in Elena's eyes. She refused to let them fall. Not here. Not before these people. Lucian looked satisfied. Excellent. Remove the girl from the palace. Throw her beyond the southern border. If she ever returns, execute her immediately. The guards grabbed Elena by both arms. She looked back one final time. Cale never moved. He never spoke. He stood motionless while she was dragged away. Only Celine noticed the blood running from Cale's tightly closed fists where his nails had pierced his own skin. His face remained cold, but inside his wolf howled louder than it ever had before. As the palace gates slammed shut behind Elena, she placed one trembling hand against her stomach. A strange wave of sickness rolled through her body. She stopped walking. The old village healer who had secretly followed the royal procession caught her before she collapsed. After examining her for only a few moments, the elderly woman slowly looked into Elena's tear-filled eyes. Her voice became barely a whisper. Child, you are not alone anymore. There is another heartbeat growing inside you. And at that exact moment inside the palace, Cale suddenly felt an unfamiliar pull deep within his soul. A bond stronger than the mate Mark itself had just been born. He did not yet know why, but somewhere beyond the palace walls the future heir of the Alpha King had begun his journey. The old healer did not speak again until the palace walls disappeared behind them. She guided Elena through narrow forest paths where snow covered every footprint within minutes. The cold wind bit against their faces, but Elena barely noticed. Her thoughts remained trapped inside the great hall where hundreds of strangers had watched the Alpha King deny her existence without hesitation. His voice echoed again and again inside her mind until every memory of kindness inside the little cabin began to feel like nothing more than a beautiful lie. She stopped walking. Her legs refused to carry her farther. The old healer gently held her shoulders. You must keep moving. They will send soldiers after you before nightfall. Elena looked down at her trembling hands. Why did he do it? The healer sighed. Sometimes kings choose duty over love. Sometimes fear wears the face of cruelty. But whatever reason lives inside his heart does not change what lives inside yours. The elderly woman slowly placed Elena's hand over her stomach. Protect this child. Everything else can wait. Those simple words awakened something stronger than heartbreak. For the first time since leaving the palace, Elena realized she was no longer running for herself. She was running for a life that had never seen the world. She wiped away every tear. Then she stood. I will protect my baby, even if I must disappear forever. The old healer smiled with quiet pride. Before sunrise, she led Elena toward the northern mountains where few travelers dared to wander. Ancient stories claimed those peaks belonged to forgotten spirits who punished anyone foolish enough to disturb their peace. Most people avoided them. That was exactly why they would be safe. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The journey tested every part of Elena's strength. She crossed frozen rivers with cracked feet. She climbed icy cliffs while carrying only a small pack of herbs and dried food. Sometimes hunger became so sharp that she could barely stand. Sometimes blizzards forced her to sleep beneath fallen trees while wrapping both arms around her growing stomach to keep the child warm. Yet every morning she stood again. Every sunrise became another promise. I will not fail you. One afternoon, she reached a narrow mountain pass hidden beneath towering cliffs. The wind suddenly became still. Birds stopped singing. Even the wolves roaming nearby lowered their heads instead of growling. Elena slowly walked forward. Something ancient watched her. She could feel it. At the end of the narrow path stood a circle of enormous stone pillars older than memory itself. Strange markings covered every surface. Snow rested upon them without melting despite the warm sunlight that filled the valley. The moment Elena stepped between the stones, a soft silver light spread beneath her feet. The crescent mark on her wrist began glowing once more. A calm voice echoed through the valley. At last, the final daughter has returned. Elena turned quickly. No one stood behind her. Instead, an elderly woman, dressed in flowing silver robes, slowly appeared between the pillars, as though she had always been part of the mountain itself. Her long, white hair reached her waist. Her bright eyes carried centuries of quiet wisdom. Elena instinctively stepped back. Who are you? The old woman smiled. My name has been forgotten by the kingdoms below. Here they call me Lyra, guardian of the Moon Valley, protector of the last bloodline. Elena frowned. I do not understand. Lyra gently reached for Elena's glowing wrist. The mark answers only one family. Your family. Elena felt her heart skip. I have no family. You believe that because your parents died before telling you the truth. Lyra's eyes became distant. Long ago, the Moon Guardian clan stood beside every Alpha King. They protected balance between power and mercy. But ambitious rulers feared them. They hunted every guardian until only one infant escaped. That infant became your grandmother. Silence swallowed the valley. Elena could hardly breathe. Everything she believed about herself shattered within seconds. Lyra continued. Royal blood does not always wear a crown. Sometimes it hides inside ordinary hearts waiting for the right moment to awaken. The moon goddess has brought you home. Elena lowered her head. Then teach me. Teach me how to protect my child. Teach me how to survive. Lyra smiled. That is why you were brought here. From that day forward, Elena's life changed completely. Every sunrise began with training. She learned to read ancient symbols carved into stone. She studied forgotten healing arts that could close wounds no ordinary medicine could touch. She learned to fight with twin blades until every movement became graceful and precise. Most importantly, she learned to control the quiet strength growing inside her heart. Months passed. Her body became stronger. Her spirit became calmer. The frightened healer slowly disappeared. A guardian began to take her place. One peaceful evening, while snow drifted gently across the valley, sharp pain suddenly spread through her body. She dropped to her knees. Lyra hurried toward her. The child is coming. The storm outside grew fierce. Thunder rolled across distant mountains. Hours later, the cries of a newborn echoed through the ancient valley. Elena held her son against her chest, while tears streamed down her face. He opened bright silver eyes that looked astonishingly familiar. Cale. For one painful moment she saw his face again. Then she kissed the baby's forehead. Your name is Rowan. You will never know hatred. You will never become the kind of king who breaks hearts. I promise. Years passed quietly. Rowan grew into a cheerful little boy who loved climbing rocks and chasing snow rabbits through the valley. He laughed often. He asked endless questions. Every evening, he fell asleep listening to stories about kindness and courage instead of revenge. Elena never spoke Cale's name. Not once. To Rowan, his father was simply a brave warrior who had sacrificed everything to protect innocent people. Nothing more. Lyra watched silently. She understood why Elena hid the truth. Children deserve hope before heartbreak. One cold winter morning, Rowan wandered farther into the forest than usual while chasing a white fox through the trees. Elena noticed too late. She ran after him, calling his name again and again. Suddenly a terrifying roar shook the mountain. A gigantic cave bear burst from behind a wall of snow. Its massive body blocked Rowan's path. The little boy froze. The beast charged. Elena screamed his name while racing downhill with every ounce of strength she possessed. She knew she would never reach him in time. Then something impossible happened. Rowan lifted both tiny hands. His frightened silver eyes suddenly flashed like moonlight. A powerful wave of invisible force exploded across the valley. The enormous bear was thrown backward through the air before crashing into the frozen hillside. Silence followed. Even the wind stopped moving. The crescent mark on Rowan's small wrist glowed brighter than the winter moon. Lyra slowly closed her eyes. It has begun. Elena rushed forward and wrapped Rowan tightly in her arms. She held him so close that neither noticed the dark raven circling high above the valley. The bird landed miles away beside a hooded scout wearing Lucian's colors. The man stared through a polished crystal toward the glowing child. A slow smile spread across his face. He immediately mounted his horse. By sunrise, the false king would receive the news he had waited 6 long years to hear. The lost child of the Alpha King was no longer hidden. 6 winters had passed since Elena disappeared beyond the northern mountains. The kingdom had changed. The forest still stood tall. The rivers still carved their way through the valleys. The moon still watched over every wolf. But the palace no longer felt alive. Its halls echoed with silence instead of laughter. Soldiers marched without pride. Nobles smiled without loyalty. Fear ruled every conversation because Lucian Thorne had spent 6 long years poisoning every heart with suspicion. Even those who served the crown no longer trusted one another. Only one man carried a heavier burden than the kingdom itself. Cale Draven. He had reclaimed his throne 2 years earlier after surviving Lucian's first coup with the help of Princess Selene and the few commanders who had remained loyal. The traitors had been driven from the capital, but Lucian himself had escaped into the eastern territories, where he slowly gathered new allies and built another army. Victory should have brought peace. Instead, it brought regret. Every morning, Cale walked alone through the royal gardens before sunrise. The guards kept their distance. No one interrupted him. Everyone knew the Alpha King preferred silence now. He often stopped beside the frozen lake where the first snowdrops appeared every spring. There he remembered a tiny wooden cabin, a warm fireplace, a gentle healer who had smiled even after risking her own life for a stranger. He remembered every word he had spoken inside the great hall. "This woman means nothing to me." Those words haunted him more than every battle he had ever fought. He had saved her life, but he had destroyed her soul. Princess Selene quietly approached one morning carrying an old leather satchel covered in snow. She found him staring across the lake. "You did not sleep again," Cale answered without looking at her. "Sleep avoids men who deserve none." Selene walked beside him. "I found something." Her voice carried unusual seriousness. Cale turned. She slowly opened the satchel. Inside rested several faded letters wrapped carefully inside dry cloth. Alongside them lay a familiar green ribbon. Cale froze. He recognized it instantly. Elena had tied her hair with that ribbon every day inside the mountain cabin. "Where did you find this?" Selene looked into his eyes. "At her home." Cale's breathing stopped. "Her cabin still stands. The soldiers who searched it believed it abandoned years ago. I went there myself. These were hidden beneath loose floorboards." Cale carefully picked up the ribbon. It still carried the faint scent of mountain herbs. For a brief moment it felt as though Elena stood beside him once more. His hands trembled. Open the letters. Celine nodded. The first letter had never been sent. Its edges had yellowed with time. Cale slowly began reading. The words struck like arrows. If you truly lied to protect me, then I hope you survive, because I cannot bear losing another person I care about. If your words were true, then I pray I never see your face again, because I would rather remember the man who smiled beside the fire than the king who destroyed me before strangers. I do not know which truth hurts more. Cale lowered the letter. His vision blurred. She had doubted him. She had hoped. She had loved him even after everything. Celine silently handed him another page. This one was shorter. If the moon goddess is kind, then our child will never learn what betrayal feels like. Cale stared at the words. Our child. The world around him disappeared. His heartbeat echoed loudly inside his ears. He looked at Celine. What does this mean? She answered gently. It means Elena was carrying your child when she left the kingdom. Cale staggered backward. No. His voice barely escaped. No. She never knew. No one told me. Celine stepped closer. She probably discovered it after leaving the palace. Cale pressed one hand against the stone railing beside him. His knees nearly gave way. Everything inside him shattered. Not only had he lost his mate, he had lost years with his own child. First words, first steps, first smile. Every moment had passed without him. His wolf released a deep, broken howl that echoed across the royal gardens. Servants stopped working. Guards looked toward the palace. None had ever heard their alpha sound so completely broken. Cale fell to one knee. I failed them. Celine placed one hand upon his shoulder. Then stopped failing them. Find them. Hours later the royal council gathered inside the throne room. Maps covered the enormous table. Generals waited for orders. Cale entered wearing black armor trimmed with silver fur. His face remained calm. Only Celine knew the storm hidden beneath it. General Orion stepped forward. Your Majesty, scouts have returned from the northern borders. One report deserves your attention. He unfolded a rough map. 3 hunters disappeared near Moon Valley. Only one returned. Barely alive. Cale narrowed his eyes. What did he see? Orion hesitated. He claims a little boy stopped a cave bear without touching it. The room erupted with whispers. Impossible. Magic like that belongs only to ancient bloodlines. Cale remained silent. His heart already knew. How old was the child? Around 6 years. Silver eyes. Dark hair. The room suddenly became very quiet. Celine slowly looked toward her brother. Neither needed to speak. The description matched perfectly. Cale turned toward Orion. Prepare my horse. Gather only the most trusted warriors. No banners. No royal escort. We leave before sunset. At that exact moment far beyond the kingdom, Rowan laughed as he chased snowflakes across Moon Valley. Elena watched him from the doorway of their small stone house. She smiled. Peace had finally become part of their lives. Then Lyra appeared beside her. The old guardian rarely interrupted joyful moments. Today her expression carried concern. They are coming. Elena's smile faded. Who? The past. Nothing more needed to be said. Lyra raised her hand toward the distant mountains. The ravens have returned. Not ordinary birds. Royal scouts. Someone has discovered the valley. Elena quietly looked toward Rowan. He was building tiny castles from fresh snow while humming to himself. He still believed the world was kind. She wanted to keep it that way forever. Can we leave? Lyra slowly shook her head. No. The valley has protected you for 6 years. Running again will only lead your enemies to innocent villages below. This time you must stand. Elena lowered her eyes. She had hoped that day would never come. That evening she entered the ancient training grounds alone. Moonlight spilled across weathered stone pillars. She removed her thick winter cloak. The frightened healer, who once struggled to lift an iron trap, no longer existed. Before the silent ruins stood a warrior. Her movements became swift and graceful as twin silver blades danced through the cold air. Every strike carried purpose. Every step carried confidence. Years of discipline flowed through her like water. When the final movement ended, she stood perfectly still beneath the moon. The crescent mark on her wrist shone brighter than ever before. Far away, Cale and his small company rode north beneath the same moon. Neither knew destiny had already begun pulling them toward one another again. But hidden among the shadows of the eastern mountains, another rider watched both journeys unfold. Lucian Thorn lowered his hood and smiled. At last, the Alpha King was riding straight toward the one trap he would never escape. The first light of dawn painted the snowy mountains with shades of gold and silver. Moon Valley had never looked more peaceful. Thin mist floated above the frozen streams while ancient pine trees stood like silent guardians around the hidden sanctuary. Small birds danced from branch to branch. Fresh snow covered every path as though no stranger had ever crossed those sacred lands. But peace can disappear long before the first sword is drawn. Elena stood outside her stone cottage, watching Rowan laugh as he chased a white wolf pup through the snow. His laughter echoed across the valley, innocent and free. Every smile on his face reminded her why she had survived 6 years of loneliness, why she had endured every painful memory without allowing hatred to poison her heart. Lyra slowly approached beside her. Her silver robes moved gently with the morning wind. The old guardian looked toward the eastern mountains. "They're close now." Elena did not ask who. She already knew. Kale, Lucian, Destiny. All three were finally walking toward the same place. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. 6 years earlier she would have been afraid. Now she simply breathed. The frightened healer had disappeared long ago. Only the moon guardian remained. She walked toward Rowan and gently knelt beside him. "Today you must stay close to Grandmother Lyra." The little boy tilted his head. "Are visitors coming?" "Yes. Friends. Or enemies. We do not know yet." Rowan smiled innocently. "Then I will protect you." Elena felt tears gather inside her eyes. She wrapped both arms around him. "No. You will only stay safe. That is enough." High above the valley a lone raven circled once before disappearing beyond the cliffs. Lyra watched it carefully. "They have already seen us. The valley will not remain hidden much longer." Far below the mountains, Kale guided his horse through a narrow mountain trail. Only 5 warriors rode beside him. General Orion, Princess Celine, and 2 trusted royal guards. No banners flew above them. No royal colors marked their armor. This was not a king riding toward war. This was a man searching for the family he had lost. Every mile increased the weight inside his chest. What if she refused to see him? What if their child hated him? What if he arrived too late once again? Those questions followed him like shadows. Celine noticed the silence. She gently guided her horse beside his. "You are afraid." Kale smiled bitterly. "I have faced armies without fear. Today I fear one woman more than 1,000 warriors. Because she can judge you with the truth." Kale nodded slowly. "And she has every right." Before Celine could answer, Orion suddenly raised one hand. Everyone stopped. Fresh footprints crossed the snowy path ahead, too large for ordinary wolves, too organized for wild animals. Scouts. Orion climbed from his horse and carefully examined the ground. 3 people, moving north. Only a few hours ahead, Kale quietly looked toward the distant mountains. "Lucian. He has already arrived." At that same moment, hidden beyond another ridge, Lucian Thorn stood beside nearly 200 soldiers wearing black armor. He unfolded an old map carved onto animal skin. One of his spies pointed toward a narrow canyon. "The valley lies beyond these cliffs." Lucian smiled. "Excellent. No one enters. No one leaves. Today we end the royal bloodline forever." His commander hesitated. "And the child?" Lucian's cold eyes hardened. "Bring him alive. Every other witness dies." The soldiers bowed. Within minutes, they vanished among the snow-covered rocks. Back inside Moon Valley, Elena walked alone toward the ancient stone circle where Lyra often meditated beneath the moon. The valley felt different today. The wind had changed. Even the wolves had stopped playing. Every creature sensed danger approaching. Lyra stood waiting beside the tallest stone pillar. She held a long wooden staff carved with glowing silver runes. "It is time." Elena looked quietly at the old guardian. "Time for what?" "To remember who you truly are." Lyra gently placed the staff upon the frozen ground. The earth beneath them began trembling softly. Ancient symbols carved into every stone slowly awakened. Silver light flowed from one pillar to another until the entire circle shimmered beneath the morning sky. Elena stepped backward. "What is happening?" "Your blood has fully awakened. But your heart still carries the pain of the girl who was abandoned." A guardian cannot fight while chained to old sorrow. Lyra raised both hands. Close your eyes. Elena obeyed. The moment darkness surrounded her memories rushed forward like crashing waves. She saw herself kneeling beside the wounded wolf. She saw the warm cabin, the quiet smiles, the long winter nights. Then came the great hall, the cruel laughter, the silver coins thrown at her feet. Cale's voice. This woman means nothing to me. Her breathing became uneven. Lyra's calm voice reached her. Look deeper. Not at his words. At his eyes. The memory changed. This time Elena noticed something she had missed years ago. Cale's hands. They had been bleeding. His fists were closed so tightly that blood ran across the marble floor. His silver eyes had never looked at her with hatred, only unbearable pain. The memory disappeared. Elena opened her eyes. Tears quietly rolled down her face. He lied. Lyra nodded. He sacrificed your love to save your life. But sacrifice without truth still leaves wounds. Forgiveness is your choice, not your duty. Elena slowly wiped away her tears. I no longer want revenge. I only want peace for my son. Before Lyra could answer, a deep horn echoed across the mountains. Then another. Then another. The valley froze. Every wolf lifted its head. Every bird flew into the sky. Rowan ran toward his mother. Mama! Who was making that sound? Elena turned toward the northern cliffs. Dark figures appeared along the ridges. Dozens. Then hundreds. Black armored soldiers poured into every mountain pass. Lucian had surrounded the valley. Moments later another group appeared from the western trail. Only 5 riders. Cale. Their eyes met across the frozen valley after 6 long years. Neither moved. Neither spoke. Time itself seemed to stop. Cale slowly climbed down from his horse. His silver eyes filled with emotions he could no longer hide. Regret. Hope. Love. Sorrow. He took one careful step forward. Elena remained standing beside Rowan. Her face revealed nothing. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Only quiet strength. Cale stopped several feet away. His voice broke for the first time in years. Elena, I came to bring you home. Before she could answer, loud laughter rolled across the valley. Lucian stepped onto the highest cliff, overlooking everyone below. His black cloak danced wildly in the mountain wind. He looked from Cale to Elena and finally toward Rowan. Perfect! The entire family gathered together. Exactly as I planned. Hundreds of enemy archers suddenly appeared along every cliff surrounding Moon Valley. Bowstrings tightened. Steel points aimed directly at Elena and Rowan. Cale instinctively stepped in front of them. Lucian laughed louder. Protect them if you wish, but today the Moon Guardian dies. The Alpha King falls, and the last royal heir becomes mine. The first arrow lifted toward the sky, then 1,000 more followed. The battle for the future of the kingdom had finally begun. The sky disappeared beneath a storm of arrows. For a single heartbeat, every soul inside Moon Valley stood motionless as thousands of black arrows rushed downward like deadly rain. The sound alone was enough to freeze the blood of even the bravest warrior. Children would have called it thunder. Soldiers knew it was death. Cale moved first. With one powerful motion, he shifted into his enormous silver black wolf. His massive body landed directly in front of Elena and Rowan. Arrow after arrow struck his thick fur and powerful shoulders. Some bounced away. Others cut through flesh. Blood stained the white snow once again, just as it had on the day Elena had first found him trapped beneath the iron jaws. Elena stared in disbelief. 6 years earlier she had saved him. Today he was shielding her with his own body. Before another wave of arrows could fall, Lyra struck her ancient staff against the frozen earth. A deep sound rolled across the valley. The ancient stone pillars surrounding Moon Valley awakened together. Silver light burst from every carved symbol until a glowing wall surrounded the valley like a circle of moonlight. Hundreds of arrows shattered the moment they touched the barrier. Broken pieces of steel rained harmlessly onto the snow. Lucian's smile slowly faded. Impossible. Those ruins have slept for centuries. Lyra looked toward him with calm eyes. They were never asleep. They were waiting. Lucian raised his sword. Break the barrier. Kill everyone. His army rushed downhill like a black wave crashing toward the valley. The peaceful sanctuary transformed into a battlefield. General Orion gathered the loyal warriors around Cale. Steel clashed against steel. Snow exploded beneath charging wolves. The quiet mountains echoed with battle cries. Princess Selene fought beside Orion with fearless determination. Every swing of her sword pushed another enemy backward. Years of hiding inside palace walls disappeared. Today she fought not as a princess, but as a daughter of the royal bloodline defending her family. Elena slowly handed Rowan to Lyra. "Take him." The old guardian looked into her eyes. "Are you certain?" Elena nodded. "He has watched me hide for 6 years. Today he will watch me stand." She removed her blue and silver cloak. Beneath it rested light armor marked with the ancient symbol of the Moon Guardians. Twin silver blades rested across her back. She had trained with them every sunrise for years. Now they finally returned to her hands. She stepped onto the battlefield, not as the frightened healer, not as the rejected woman, but as the last Moon Guardian. Enemy soldiers laughed when they saw her. One rushed forward, swinging a heavy axe. Elena moved like flowing water. One graceful turn, one silent step, one shining blade. The axe fell into the snow. A heartbeat later the soldier dropped beside it, unable to continue fighting. She never paused. Another warrior charged. Then another. Every movement remained calm. Every strike carried precision instead of anger. She was not fighting for revenge. She was protecting everyone standing behind her. Cale watched her from across the battlefield, his heart filled with pride and sorrow at the same time. She no longer needed anyone to rescue her. She had become stronger than he had ever imagined. Far above them, Lucian noticed the same thing. His eyes narrowed. "Enough games. Bring me the boy." Hidden assassins suddenly emerged from narrow passages carved into the cliffs. They ignored every battle around them and raced directly toward Lyra and Rowan. The old guardian immediately placed Rowan behind her. "Stay close. Do not move." The first assassin leaped through the air with twin daggers raised high. Before Lyra could react, a familiar silver black wolf crashed into the attacker with overwhelming force. Cale! He had abandoned the center of the battle the instant he sensed danger near Rowan. The assassin disappeared beneath the Alpha King's powerful claws. The remaining attackers hesitated. That brief moment was enough. General Orion and the royal guards reached them. Within seconds, the hidden assassins were defeated. Rowan looked up at the enormous wolf standing protectively before him. His silver eyes widened. For reasons he could not explain, he felt completely safe beside this giant creature. He slowly stepped forward. Cale lowered his massive head. The little boy placed one tiny hand against the wolf's forehead. The battlefield disappeared from Cale's mind. A warm connection spread through his entire soul. Stronger than the mate bond. Stronger than blood itself. His wolf instantly recognized the child. "My son." Cale could not speak those words in wolf form, but tears filled his silver eyes. Rowan smiled innocently. "You are hurt." The little boy gently touched one of the arrows still buried in Cale's shoulder. Without understanding how he was doing it, Rowan's glowing hands released soft silver light. The wound closed before everyone's eyes. Nearby soldiers stopped fighting for a moment. Even Lucian stared in shock. Royal healing. The forgotten power had returned. His expression twisted with rage. If the child lived, no lie would ever protect his stolen throne again. Lucian drew a black spear wrapped in dark silver. He whispered ancient forbidden words over its blade. Then he threw it with every ounce of strength he possessed. The spear flew through the air toward Rowan. Too fast. Too sudden. Cale leaped. Elena screamed. Time itself seemed to slow. Just before the spear reached Rowan, another figure stepped into its path. Lyra. The spear pierced straight through her chest. Silence spread across the valley. The old guardian looked down at the weapon before slowly lifting her eyes toward Elena. She smiled peacefully. The valley chose well. Her knees weakened. Elena rushed forward and caught her before she touched the snow. "No. Please. Stay with us." Lyra gently placed her trembling hand over Elena's glowing crescent mark. "Listen carefully. The Moon Guardian blood was never created to rule kings. It was created to remind them mercy is stronger than fear. Never become the monster your enemies expect. Promise me." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "I promise." Lyra smiled one final time. Then the light slowly faded from her eyes. A cold wind swept through Moon Valley. Every wolf lifted its head toward the sky. A long, sorrowful howl echoed across the mountains. Even the battlefield became strangely quiet. Rowan buried his face against Elena and cried without understanding why the woman who had raised him would never speak again. Chaol lowered his head with deep respect. Another mother had sacrificed everything to protect his family. Lucian looked around impatiently. Why has everyone stopped? Kill them. Finish this. But something unexpected happened. His own soldiers hesitated. Many had witnessed Lyra's sacrifice. Many had watched Elena protect strangers instead of seeking revenge. They had also watched Lucian throw a poisoned spear toward a little child. Doubt quietly entered their hearts. One captain slowly lowered his sword, then another, then another. Lucian noticed immediately. Cowards! Obey your king. A calm voice answered from behind him. You were never their king. Lucian turned sharply. Princess Selene stood at the top of the cliff, holding an old leather scroll sealed with the royal crest. Behind her stood dozens of nobles, village elders, royal commanders, and soldiers who had secretly abandoned Lucian during the battle. Selene lifted the ancient scroll high above her head. Today the truth and 6 years of lies. Every eye turned toward her. Even Lucian's own army waited. The battle had not ended, but something far more powerful than swords was about to decide the fate of the kingdom. The battlefield became quieter than any battlefield had the right to be. Snow continued falling across Moon Valley, covering broken weapons and crimson stains alike. Warriors who had been trying to kill one another only moments before now stood frozen in place. Every eye remained fixed on Princess Selene as she held the ancient royal scroll high above her head. Even the mountain wind seemed to wait. Lucian slowly laughed. A piece of old parchment will not save you. Selene looked at him without fear. No, but the truth will. She carefully broke the royal seal. The wax carried the mark of King Aldric, Chaol's late father. It had never been opened since the day it was written. General Orion stepped forward and bowed his head. I recognize the royal seal. Every commander who served the old king recognizes it. Lucian's smile faded. Destroy it. Immediately. Several loyal soldiers rushed toward Selene. Before they could reach her, dozens of warriors who had once served under Lucian suddenly stepped between them. No orders were spoken. No promises were made. They simply refused to allow the last truth to be buried. One elderly commander removed his black cloak and threw it into the snow. I followed the crown. Not a liar. Others did the same. Within moments, nearly half of Lucian's army had lowered their weapons. His face twisted with rage. Traitors! Selene's calm voice echoed across the valley. Listen to the final command of your true king. She began reading. If these words are ever spoken before the kingdom, then know that I have discovered betrayal inside my own court. My beta general Lucian Thorn has secretly conspired with foreign rulers and several corrupted nobles to seize the throne through murder. If my son Chaol survives, then he alone remains the rightful Alpha King. If he falls, then every commander receiving this decree shall expose Lucian before the people and protect the bloodline at all costs. The valley fell completely silent. Selene slowly lowered the scroll. The truth had finally escaped. Lucian stared at the faces surrounding him. Disbelief, anger, disgust. The expressions he once inspired with fear had changed forever. His empire had begun collapsing without a single sword being raised. He suddenly laughed again. A desperate laugh. Do you think this changes anything? The old king is dead. The people only follow strength. He pulled a hunting horn from beneath his cloak and blew one long piercing note across the mountains. The sound echoed again and again. Hidden gates opened inside the cliffs. From deep underground emerged dozens of enormous wolves unlike any seen before. Their fur was dark as midnight. Their eyes burned with unnatural crimson. Their bodies carried scars covered by strange black markings. General Orion whispered, "Shadow wolves." Lucian smiled proudly. I spent 6 years building an army stronger than royal blood itself. The monstrous wolves charged down the mountain. They attacked everything in their path. Friend and enemy no longer mattered. Lucian had chosen destruction over defeat. Chaos exploded across the battlefield once again. Chaol shifted into his wolf form without hesitation. His mighty roar shook the valley. Royal wolves answered from every direction. The mountains echoed with hundreds of voices. The final battle had begun. Elena looked toward Rowan. "Stay with Princess Selene. Do not leave her side." The little boy wanted to argue. Instead, he quietly nodded. He had seen enough to understand that this moment was bigger than any of them. Elena gripped her twin silver blades. She ran directly toward Lucian. The traitor saw her coming. At last, the rejected healer returns. She did not answer. Words no longer mattered. Only justice. Lucian swung his massive sword with crushing force. Elena slipped beneath the attack like flowing water. Her blades flashed once. The edge of Lucian's cloak drifted into the snow. He smiled, faster than before. Good. He attacked again. Steel met silver. Neither gained an advantage. Around them wolves fought beneath the falling snow, while warriors defended one another regardless of former loyalties. Kale battled 3 shadow wolves alone. Each creature fought without fear. Dark silver covered their claws. Every wound they caused burned like poison. Still Kale refused to retreat. His eyes searched constantly for Elena. For Rowan. For his family. Across the battlefield, Rowan suddenly noticed something strange. The shadow wolves ignored everyone except his parents. As though someone controlled them. He remembered the stories Lyra had told him beside the fire. Every dark spell has a single heart. Break the heart. Break the spell. His bright silver eyes searched the battlefield. Then he saw it. Around Lucian's neck hung a black crystal pulsing with dark light. The wolves moved every time it glowed. Rowan immediately understood. He slipped away from Celine before anyone noticed. The little boy ran through the battlefield. Snow flew beneath his small boots. Several soldiers tried to stop him. He disappeared between them. Elena suddenly saw her son racing toward Lucian. Rowan. Her voice echoed through the valley. Lucian turned. A cruel smile spread across his face. Perfect. The heir has come to me. He reached toward Rowan. Before his hand could touch the child, Kale crashed into him in full wolf form. The impact shattered a massive boulder. Lucian rolled across the snow. The black crystal slipped from beneath his armor. Rowan did not hesitate. He picked up a fallen spear. Every lesson Elena had taught him about courage filled his heart. With all the strength his small body possessed, he drove the spear into the black crystal. A blinding crack echoed across the valley. The crystal exploded into countless fragments. At once every shadow wolf froze. Their crimson eyes faded. One after another they collapsed peacefully into the snow as though finally released from endless suffering. Lucian looked around in horror. No. Everything I built. Everything. Is. Mine. His scream turned into fury. He drew a hidden dagger coated with dark silver and rushed straight toward Rowan. Elena saw it. Kale saw it. Neither could reach the child in time. Before Lucian's dagger struck, Rowan lifted his tiny hand. The crescent mark upon his wrist shone brighter than the full moon. A wave of pure silver light burst outward. Not violent, not destructive, gentle, warm. The light passed through every warrior, every wolf, every tree. Lucian stopped where he stood. His dagger slipped from his fingers. For the first time in decades, he saw every crime he had committed, every innocent life, every betrayal, every lie. He fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. What have I become? No one answered. Justice had already spoken. Royal guards quietly stepped forward and placed iron chains around his wrists. This time he offered no resistance. The war was over. Days later the capital welcomed its people into the great hall once again. This time there were no chains. No laughter meant a wound. No humiliation. The hall overflowed with citizens from every pack. When Kale entered, he did not walk alone. Elena walked beside him wearing the blue and silver cloak of the Moon Guardians. Rowan held both their hands. The entire hall rose to its feet, not because someone ordered them, because respect had replaced fear. Kale stopped before the throne. He did not sit. Instead, he turned toward the people. Years ago I failed the woman who saved my life. I believed silence would protect her. Instead, it only caused pain. A true king accepts his victories. He must also accept his failures. Today I ask forgiveness before my kingdom. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt before Elena, not as an alpha, not as a king, as a man. His voice became quiet. I cannot erase your sorrow. I cannot return the years I lost with our son. But if there is even one place left inside your heart for me, then I will spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve it. The great hall became silent once more. Elena looked into his silver eyes. This time there were no lies, no hidden duty, no fear. Only truth. She gently reached down and lifted him back to his feet. Forgiveness is not given in one moment. It is earned every day. If you are willing to walk that path beside me, then I will not walk away again. A warm smile slowly appeared on Cale's face. For the first time in 6 long years, hope finally outweighed regret. The royal crown was placed upon Cale's head. Then another crown was offered to Elena. She accepted it not because she wished to rule, but because she wished to protect. As the people cheered, Rowan suddenly looked toward one of the enormous stained glass windows overlooking the palace courtyard. For a brief second he smiled. Standing beyond the glass beneath the falling snow was Lyra. She looked exactly as she had on the day she sacrificed herself. She placed one gentle hand over her heart before slowly fading into the sunlight. Only Rowan had seen her. He whispered softly, "Thank you, grandmother." The breeze carried his words into the bright winter sky while the bells of the kingdom rang together. Not for the rise of another ruler, but for the beginning of a kingdom where mercy finally stood beside power, and where the true queen was remembered not because she wore a crown but because she never allowed pain to steal the kindness that had once saved an alpha king beneath the snow.